When One Becomes Three by Glenn Hubbard. I was ushered into a room with a bright white floor and white ceiling, and wide two-way mirrors on every wall. I imagined the scientists on the other side sitting behind their computers, analysing the data and confirming their hypotheses, ready and anxious to monitor my reaction as they vied for best position. It was at that moment I felt a twinge of self-pity. Okay, so it was the year 3057, and while human cloning wasn't exactly new, the fact that I had become a lab rat intensified my shame for what was already a pretty pathetic situation. I can't even remember how my failures to make friends became an issue, but they had manifested into a crippling sense of inadequacy. This was my best shot at a solution. Commonplace though the practice may be, I still had concerns. Truth be told, I was freaking out. The success rate in making exact replicas was something like 99.8%, but that 0.2% margin for error had my mind racing. What if there were complications and my double lost some childhood memories, or we didn't share the same interests? I imagined saying, "These dark, shimmering rocks are from the 21st century when there was still dry land on Earth," only to find he's more into playing games. Do you know anyone with a PlayStation 85? I thought to myself, I'll just have to be more exciting. But I knew that would be easier said than done. My parents had been cryogenically frozen for almost 1,000 years before being thawed out and bringing me into the world, which meant they'd passed on old-fashioned rules and traditions out of vogue with the youth of today. "Take 2 steps forward, please, Daniel," the doctor said into his microphone and through the speakers. I did as he said. I craned my neck toward the ceiling and caught a glimpse of myself in some steel casing protecting a light, like one might do when looking at the back of a spoon. I noticed 2 small, dark green dots, 1 dot each at the edge of my eyebrows. They hadn't been there before. I heard the door handle move, and I snapped my head back to see it swing open. My heart was racing. My clone edged timidly past the door, dressed and looking the spitting image of Daniel McIntyre I. From the size and colour of his eyes to the amount and tone of his freckles. Every strand of his golden brown hair seemed to be the same length and to curl in the same direction. His nervous, blank stare drifted to the floor. He was obviously exhausted. The doctor closed the door and left the 2 of us in the room. Slowly my clone's head rose again. I barely had time to suppress my shock when at that moment I saw the same green dots at the ends of his eyebrows, with a small difference. There was 1 on the left and 2 on the right. Why the extra dot? I thought. I must have already looked statuesque when I heard the ruffle of a mic through the speakers. "Number 2, the doctor said. "Meet number 3. I remained frozen until they carried me away on a stretcher. I've since been told this is the standard procedure for clones who realize they're not the original specimen, but I've been in therapy and taking pills ever since. The few friends I've made in this hospital call me 0.2%.